Okay, so for this lesson, we're going to work a little bit on color correction. So go ahead, open up your image that we've been working on back into Photoshop. Okay, so remember we should have our background layer, layer 2, which is our sky, layer 1, which is our sort of desert sand, layer 3, which is our shadow, copy layer above that, which is the face. So why don't we actually start to name some of these? So the easiest way to do this is just to double click right on the text, and I'm going to name this head, and double click on this and name this head shadow. Double click on this, name it sand. Double click on this sky. Okay, just so that it's easier to kind of see what each part is and identify it. Okay, so I'm going to come back up to the head layer here. Okay, and we're going to start adding some color correction to this. So right now it's a little bit faded. Again, sometimes it's a little dark, it's a little faded, and we can do some things to sort of change this a little bit. So where we adjust some of that work is we have to make sure that one layer is selected, and then this is going to apply to the entire layer. So we don't have to use a selection tool like a lasso or the magic wand and invert to select it. We can do it directly to this. Or if you wanted to, you could select one area and only apply those changes to what you have selected. But in this case, we're going to apply it to the entire layer. Okay? So I'm going to, again, make sure the head layer is selected. I'm going to go into Image, Adjustments. The first thing we're going to work on is brightness and contrast. So I click on that, and a window will appear. Make sure it's not on top of the thing you're trying to adjust. You can do that by clicking and moving it over. So right now it is kind of bright, so I could probably take that down a little bit. Okay, kind of give it a little less brightness, kind of match sort of what's going on here with the sky and the desert a little bit. And then I can add a little contrast to it to sharpen it up, to sort of make it so it was a little too washed out. So I can add contrast to it. To sort of sharpen it up a little bit, to make it a little richer. The dark's darker and the light's lighter. Okay, so that kind of cleaned up my image. You can see in the preview, if I click on and off, right, the difference that I've created. Okay, if I go the other way with the contrast, it just washes really out. Obviously, if I go too far with the brightness, it's too bright. If I go too far with the darkness, it's too dark. So you're kind of like playing around with what looks good. You know, you're trying to sharpen up the image and move it from you know what either too dark or washed out, and make it a little bit more even, where the darks and the lights kind of give it some crispness. Okay, I think that's the best way to think about it. Okay, so once you've got that kind of set up, it works well with your composition. Just click OK. Okay, so that's brightness and contrast. All right, another adjustment that you can do is your color adjustment. So if I go to back here, if I go to Image, Adjustment, and let's do color balance. Okay, color balance allows me to sort of, if it's too blue or too yellow or too red, I start to change it. So right here, got some sort of like greens. It's not too bad. It actually works pretty well, but just to show you can see how it works, just in case your photo is not quite right. I can change some of this, okay? So if I want to, I can make it a little more cooler by adding some blues into it. You can see, right, get really blue, so or some cyan would make it go the other way. But I think I'm going to add just a little bit of red. I think it needs to sort of match a little bit more with the desert. It's kind of hot, so I'm adding a little bit more red than I have, and then a little bit more yellow to sort of orange it out a little bit, to kind of match sort of that sand a little bit. Add a little green to it if I want to make it cooler. That's too much. Maybe a little more magenta. So you play around and you're trying to match it to make it feel like it's part of the image. You don't want to make it so that it hides. So now you can do it in the shadows, midtones, and the highlights. You have some different aspects. If I click on the shadow, and I try to get that a little bit more red, so you can kind of play around with it and get your color balance worked out. When you have it good, click OK. All right. Other things. Let's see. So edit, image, adjustments. Let's try hue and saturation. Okay, let's say if it's really a different color, you can kind of, up in the hue, I can really change the color by like dragging this back and forth. You can really get a sense of what's going on with the color. You know, if you're trying to make it purposely whacked out, you can do that as well. Saturation, again, is how bright that color happens to be, or how black and white. Okay, lightness is very similar to brightness, right? I can make it completely black or completely white, or a variation in between. Okay, so that's with hue and saturation. I'm not going to use it, so I'm going to click hit cancel because I feel like this is not too bad. But another one is adjustment vibrance. Similar to saturation, it just makes it a little bit more, it kind of is enriching that color a little bit more. Notice it's sort of getting towards the warmer orangey colors. Okay, the saturation would really bring that out as well. So you can kind of play around with sort of like warming it up or making it a little bit more colorful if your image is a little bit dull. Okay, so that feels about right. A little bit, maybe a little more. It's kind of nice. All right, click OK. So again, so that's a bunch of the adjustments that we're going to work with for now. So I would check out the brightness and contrast always first. I would go back in, try to match the color, and then a little bit of the vibrance to sort of match it. So now I feel the sky is a little bit too blue, so I'm going to click on the sky layer now, and let's just change it. Okay, so image, adjustment. I'm going to go for hue and saturation. Okay, so I can kind of make it, you know, a little greener or a little more, yeah, I like it in a cooler kind of thing, or really that could be really kind of crazy too, just like a. All right, so play around with it, try to find something. I think a little cooler, maybe. Yeah, I kind of like that. That's kind of freaky. No, I'm just going to go with a sort of standard darkish kind of blue sky. But play around with it, see if what you can come up with. All right. And again, saturation really brings it out, this craziness. But we're trying to match, make it look realistic. Okay, a little bit. So don't go super crazy with this one. We can do it on another project. All right. So click OK. Kind of need a little. And then what else can we do? Image, adjustments. I'll do the color balance again. Feel like maybe a little red to it, maybe a little yellow. Kind of make that a little bit more this grayish green. Okay, so you're trying to make it feel like it's part of the image. I think I like that better. With the clouds have a little bit of a yellow on it, kind of bounces off, matches the light a little bit. Okay, click OK. Okay, so that's how you color balance. You color balance, you adjust, or I should say image adjustments to there's all these different things, and you can go into each different one, but for now, that should work for this project, get you started. Okay, so at this point, we'll do another lesson at another time, so save your image, file save, okay, and shut down, we'll do it another time. Okay.